My Feral Heart, which is an interesting film, which is being largely self-distributed. You have to seek it out. What we will do is we will tweet a link to a place which tells you where you can, where you find it play. It is playing in a number of different places, but it tends to be sort of one-off. So this is a story of a young man called Luke, story of a young man with Down syndrome, played brilliantly, I have to say, by Stephen Brandon, who cares for his mother at the beginning of the film. His mother then passes away, and he finds that he's not allowed to live anymore in his own home. He moves into special needs accommodation where he's looked after by a carer called Eve. Here's a clip.
Is it my fault
Is what your fault?
that she died?
Oi. Don't you ever think that? Look how you cared for her.
I didn't make her better.
Luke, it wasn't your fault. You did the best you could to look after her.
What happens when you die?
I don't know. Depends on what you believe. My nan used to say we come back as animals.
I like animals.
Me too.
I miss her.
I know you do.
It is an absolutely terrific performance by Stephen Brandon. I mean, he's great. I haven't seen him in a film before. I think this may be his first film, but he is really, really good in it. And what then happens is he wants to get out, but initially he's not allowed to go out. Then he befriends a guy who is basically sort of quite posh, but is doing community service. He's working there as a punishment. And he's a hunt saboteur. And then the film gets into this strange area where our central character is out in a field and fox hunting is going on in the background. And he comes across a feral girl played by Pixie Lynott, who is a contortionist whose work I hadn't come across before. And you wonder, is she real? Is she, because in that clip there, people say that we come back as animals. Is she somehow connected to the fox because she appears to have been caught in a fox trap? Is she a projection of his imagination? Or is she somebody that he can care for? Because the point is that he was before in a caring role for his mother. And what I think is brilliant about the film, which has this kind of magical realist tone, is that the strangeness sort of plays out throughout the rest of the drama. And it manages this tone, which on the one hand is very real and very down to earth and very tangible and tactile, but on the other hand has a sort of, as I said, slightly dreamy, sort of magical realist, off-kilter quality that it manages to sustain, I thought, really effectively. There's a fairy tale element in there. There's also an element of Whistle Down the Wind. It's not a million miles away from the world of Chicken, which is a film that I enjoyed very, very much. It's been nominated for a number of awards, and understandably so. There are certain things about it that reminded me of that film, The Eighth Day, from years and years ago, which I really enjoyed. But the best thing is that it is a film in which you're not quite sure how it's going to play out for each of its individual characters. It's beautifully directed by Jane Gull. The writer is Duncan Paveling. I think it's Jane Gull's first feature. And it's shot in this kind of this way which manages to combine, as I said, realism with this sort of strange, dreamy quality in which things are, it's not surreal, but more kind of hyper-real. Susan Salavati is the cinematographer. And it was, I didn't know what to expect at all. I knew very little about it. I have to say I found it richly rewarding. And as I said, once again, just such a terrific, complicated and really well-pitched central performance by Stephen Brandon. Obviously a labour of love in terms of it's a very, very low-budget movie. And there are some parts of it that don't quite work, and that occasionally there are things that look like, but it doesn't matter because the film itself casts a rather enchanting spell that draws you in. And I said, you'll have to seek it out. We'll tweet on the Wittertainment list a link that says where you can find it. But I was very touched by it.